over $100,000 in scholarships from everyone here in the tournament. Trips to the 2015 World Championships, as well as a really sweet exclusive Pikachu World Champion trophy and exclusive Pokemon Worlds merchandise that everyone here, I know I've had my eye on some of it throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, getting those trips is a big deal, too. That's one thing all these finalists have to look forward to, is that by making it to the finals, they've already earned a trip back next year to the 2015 World Championships. Definitely put some stress off their minds, but I'm sure right now the only thing they're thinking of is trying to become the world champion.
Yeah, having a trip is nice, but you know what's even better than that is just, I'm the champion. I'm the best in the world in this format. No one can take that away from you. And let's take a closer look at the two players who will be competing to earn that right to become the champion. On your screen, you can see Nikolai Zielinski from the United States. Of course, first place in the 2014 Utah Regional, top 8 at the National Championships in the United States, and also another top 8 at the Seattle Regional. Some really strong placements there from him. You can see his team there in your lower left-hand corner. That's going to be Tyranitar, Mawile, Hydreigon, Gengar, Washrotom, and Garchomp that you can see from Nikolai Zielinski. Really a great season for him so far. I'm sure he would love to top it off with a championship.
Yeah, always, you know, you get to the World Championships. You didn't come here just to play, right? So excellent showing so far, but still, you know, one more match to win.
Yep, and his opponent will be Mark Mcquillan from the United Kingdom. And you can see Mark Mcquillan is no stranger to the big stage. 10th at Worlds in 2011 as a junior, and last year 6th at Worlds as a senior, as well as 2nd Germany Nationals, 4th at Germany Nationals 2012 and 2013, and then a first placing here this year in the Italian Nationals. And there's his team there in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. That's Staraptor, that Aegislash, Lapras, Heatrotom, Garchomp, and Kangaskhan. So Kangaskhan making an appearance on only one of our teams this time, as opposed to both teams last.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of an interesting matchup here. Nikolai's got a lot of different pieces to kind of counter that Kangaskhan. So Mark's going to have some work to do to try to get it going here. He also has some other really interesting pieces on his team. Staraptor's not a Pokemon that's been featured on the stream yet in this World Championships. Definitely not one of the most common Pokemon to see, but very good. And something that can really aggressively remove a single Pokemon on the opposing team. And also Lapras. We've kind of seen a return of a lot of the red and blue Pokemon, and seeing Lapras here should be very exciting. And I think it's likely he'll pick at one of these matches here. It's got a pretty good matchup, so hopefully the crowd will be excited to see that one.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. I am more than excited to see all of these Pokemon on stream, seeing these players competing on stream. But before we do, I know that someone has some words of advice for our players competing to be the world champion this time, and it's last year's world champion.
My name is Hayden McTavish, and I come from Kenmore, Washington. I am the 2013 Pokemon World Champion in the Seniors Division. I've been playing Pokemon since I was about 4, and I've been playing competitively since 2011. In 2012, I lost to Toller Webb, but that motivated me, seeing that he was the World Champion, and in 2013, I beat Shota Yamamoto to make it into the Last Chance qualifier. And so even being in Worlds, my only goal was to not get last, which meant there was no pressure and I could just focus on playing, and that worked really well for me. The best part of competing in Pokemon events, I have made a lot of friends just battling in really intense matches, and it's ridiculously fun. I think the worst thing for people to forget at these events is that they're really fun even amidst all the stress. And I think that's the #1 tip I would have for any trainer, is to have fun.
All right, I completely forgot how much Hayden had to go through last year to get the championships. And these players have gone through a lot as well. You know, we've had these rounds of Swiss and now these best of 3 rounds in Top Cut. It's been an incredibly long tournament for both of these trainers, and only one of them can come out on top.
Yeah, it's a shame everyone can't win, but that's sort of the fun of it, right? A lot of trainers behind them already. They've played through 6 rounds of Swiss, like you mentioned, which eliminates most of the field. The other top 6 trainers in their division in the world were knocked out during the bracket stage. Now just the 2 of them remaining. I think that's kind of the fun of the thing, that all these players are so good just to get to this tournament. So by getting every stage you make it to, can it feel that much better? And getting to the finals now, it has to feel great. But You know, I don't think there's any worse feeling, at least at first, than making it to the finals, getting that close to winning the World Championships and letting it slip through your fingers. So huge moment for both of these guys. You never know if you're going to make it back here. Only one player's ever won more than one World Championships in the VGC, so you've got to take advantage of these opportunities when they come.
Yeah, definitely. And as much as I do enjoy the sound of my own and Scott's voice, I think it's time for us to get right into battle. We are going to throw it down to the stage to introduce your competitors.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next on stage, we have the Pokemon Video Game Senior Division Finals! Our competitors are Player 1 from the United States, Nikolai Zielinski! Versus Player 2 from the United Kingdom, Mcquillan!
All right. You can see our competitors there on stage. Of course, on the left there, that's Nikolai Zielinski from the United States. And on the right, Mcquillan from the United Kingdom. Let's hear it one more time for both of these trainers. Such a huge accomplishment to make it this far. Scott, let's talk a little bit about these team matchups. You already mentioned on Mark's side that Lapras might come out huge for him in this play. We also see the Staraptor, one of my favorite Pokemon as well, potentially able to put some pressure on early. How do you think this will shake out, even from that all-important turn 1?
Yeah, well, I think what he's going to, or well, at least what Mark's going to need to do here is try to find a way to make that Kangaskhan do some damage. Certainly one of the most influential Pokemon in this metagame, a Kangaskhan. What you really need to do with it is to try to deal with your opponent's checks. You know, at this point in the tournament, there's going to be lots of options to deal with it. You know, Garchomp, Aegislash, Gyarados among the most common and effective. So those are all going to be problems he's going to have to deal with here. But what he really needs to do is just find ways to get that Kangaskhan free, to get some damage off. If it gets controlled, it's going to be very difficult for him to win. He doesn't have a whole lot of big attackers on his team. But if that Kangaskhan does get a couple power-up punches, even a couple uncontested returns, he'd quickly start knocking some holes into Nikolai's team and get him a victory here. I do say that Nikolai, probably based on Hayden's advice, looks like he has the advantage here. What I learned is that you're supposed to have fun, and he certainly looked like he was having more fun on stage here. However, this team matchup's going to be a little bit trickier for him. I believe he had the Venusaur as his Mega, so he's going to have a harder time trying to deal with that Kangaskhan. One issue with Venusaur is that it walls most of the metagame really well. A powerful defensive Pokemon, especially against special attackers, doesn't have very many weaknesses other than Poison type being able to be exploitable a little bit by Gardevoir, which is fortunately not going to be in this matchup. No Fairy types from Mark's team. He does have Staraptor, that flying type, so that's going to be a big deal once again. But Venusaur doesn't really like Kangaskhan. It does a whole lot of physical damage. It does enough to kind of burst through Venusaur's healing if it has something like Synthesis, which this Venusaur does. So he's definitely going to need to be careful here. Make sure that he can either not use his Mega or defend it very well, because it's going to have a harder time here. That Lapras also has 3 targets that he can hit for super effective damage with Ice-type moves, and Gyarados, who's weak to Freeze Dry. So definitely something that is going to be an issue here for Nikolai. He's going to have to control that Lapras really carefully.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to see how that's going to work out for Nikolai. Players are about to hop into game after team preview here, and we are about to see the first turn. Let's hear it for both of these players once again as we head right into the game. You can see Mark on the top of your screen. Nikolai is going to be on the bottom of your screen. We do see Gengar and Garchomp showing up on the side for Nikolai Zielinski, up against Mcquillan's Kangaskhan and Staraptor on the field. Staraptor making a presence from the start, as well as that Kangaskhan.
Oh, so it is Gengar here. Sorry for some misinformation in the preview. It looks like we aren't seeing quite the team we expected here, but we do have Staraptor out here. And Kangaskhan, like we mentioned before, pretty much the same things are still true. Staraptor needs to try to find ways to break through this team, give some room for Kangaskhan. Gengar probably going to try to stop doing that, depending on whether or not it's a Mega Gengar. If it isn't a Mega, it's able to use that Will-O-Wisp more frequently, try to play defensively, often carries Focus Sash. Makes it hard for Kangaskhan to do damage, since as a normal-type Pokemon, it can't hit Ghost types. If it's a Mega Gengar, it's a little bit different. It's going for that trap mode, so it'll be important for Mark here to play this carefully. Try not to get Kangaskhan in a position where either it's trapped and can't do much damage to either the active Pokemon, or burned, which really reduces the damage it can do. And that's a big part of that Kangaskhan control game, and making sure Kangaskhan gets those attacks not hampered by a burn, by Intimidate, or by any other form of attack reduction.
Looks like Mark does not want to leave that Staraptor out on the field. Is going to switch out for his own Garchomp. Actually, Garchomp, the most popular Pokemon on the field that we've seen so far. Most people were expecting Mega Kangaskhan, but it looks like Nikolai going to go with that double protect strategy from the Gengar and the Garchomp so that Kangaskhan can't fake it out. Of course, Kangaskhan does have that Scrappy ability before it Mega Evolves, so could have also threatened that Gengar, as it chose to do here.
Yeah, nice play there with that fake out. By not Mega Evolving, it's able to get that fake out off, prevent a burn without switching. Likely, you carrying that fake out, Kangaskhan doesn't always, or almost never carries Protect in addition to fake out. This one definitely doesn't. So he's able to do that to stop that Gengar from getting a probable burn off, get a switch in to get in a better position. Now, if he's afraid of that burn, he can switch this turn, but either bring the previous Pokemon back in, which you might want to do. He's trying to use Final Gambit rather than attack. The burn's not going to be too huge of a deal. But it looks like Garchomp is switching first.
Yep, Nikolai is going to switch out his own Garchomp in favor of Mawile. So Mawile now out on the field, getting that Intimidate off onto both the Kangaskhan and Garchomp. That's going to be pretty huge. Both of those physical attackers aren't going to want to lose that attack. But of course, Garchomp is going to get a Dragon Claw off onto the Gengar. And Kangaskhan still deciding not to Mega Evolve so it can keep it Scrappy, and is going to go ahead and do the return onto Gengar. The Trick Room, though, twisting the dimensions. Fast Trick Room. I haven't seen that since 2010.
Yeah, it was a Mewtwo then in the Masters division, so kind of cool to see something harken back to that strategy there. Gengar definitely not something you expect Trick Room from. Like I mentioned before, usually just a really fast Focus Sash, burn support set, or a Mega, but this is something completely different. We do see the Maw coming in here, likely the Mega on that side of the field. One of the natural counters of Kangaskhan as well. We've seen a lot of Maw doing well this weekend, and it was sort of that battle all season between Kangaskhan and the Megas to do well against it. And it looks like Kangaskhan's actually been losing that battle this weekend.
And it looks like that we are going to see another switch on the side of Mark's side. Going to go ahead and put in the Aegislash, trying to keep it slow so that he can abuse that Trick Room that Nikolai set up. But we do see Mawile Mega Evolving right away. Of course, Mawile's weakness is its speed. But of course, in Trick Room, now it can use its pure power, its huge ability to break holes in his opponent's team to full effect. Of course, Kangaskhan also going to go ahead and Mega Evolve, but the Sucker Punch is going to fail, trying to target that Gengar, but Iron Head coming off from the Mawile. Does get some good damage onto Kangaskhan with that Iron Head, but the Will-O-Wisp missing is huge.
Yeah, it's a big deal there. The Kangaskhan now does have a chance to retreat and still do some damage later in the battle. Getting that low is still a big problem, likely to be in Sucker Punch range from Mawile. So even if Trick Room expires, it's not going to get a whole lot done here. Getting Aegislash out here will help for some counterplay on Mark's side here. Definitely not something Mawile likes playing against very much. The standard set can't hit it very effectively unless it's attacking, and Aegislash always carries Substitute to block that. So a better spot for him now. But Kangaskhan here, in spite of dodging the burn, still very low in health, still much slower than the Maw because of a Trick Room. Not a good spot here, and there's not a whole lot of safe switches on his team for that Maw. An Iron Head or a Play Rough aimed at that slot could easily knock out one of his back Pokemon. Staraptor, not very useful after it takes damage, so tough spot for him here.
Definitely. We do see Nikolai is going to retreat that Gengar in favor of his Wash Rotom.
Trying to get your Kangaskhan carried away while the other side tries to stop yours. And there's been basically no damage done to Nikolai's side of the field. The Kangaskhan is already knocked out, and the only advantage that Mark's been able to get from is getting that Substitute up on Aegislash. Definitely not a spot he wants to be in here, so he's going to have to play very careful from this point on. Garchomp out now, but he has to worry about that Play Rough from Mawile. Likely to see a Protect from it here, but he's going to have to find an opportunity to get an attack off. Trick Room really a big issue here. If it gets reset, the game's basically over, so he's going to have to be careful to stay in position to stop Gengar once it comes back in as well.
Yeah, you can see Mark definitely feeling like he's on the back foot, choosing to go with that defensive play, the King Shield from Mawile. Not going to protect the Garchomp, though, so Mega Mawile is going to get another free KO. And Garchomp going down so easily to that Play Rough from Mawile.
Yeah, that's a tough play there. I actually don't mind that play by Mark, even though it doesn't work out there. I know it looks kind of foolish just to give up the Garchomp for free, but like I mentioned, the the first read there is that Garchomp's probably going to protect. It knows that Mawile is likely to play rough it. When you're behind in a game like this, sometimes you have to take some risks to try to get back in the game. He went for that there and it didn't pay off, but with this Staraptor coming in here, it's a Pokemon that trades 1-for-1 very well, but doesn't do any better than that very well. So it's not like you can just bring that in later and sweep with it, right? Like you need to kind of get the score closer to really have a shot there. So he didn't have much choice but to gamble, and even though it didn't pay off for him, I think it was probably his best chance to try to get back in this game.
Yeah, and we do see that Mark is going to finally go on the offensive as that Aegislash is going to go ahead and switch into its Blade form. With that Shadow Ball is going to be targeted at the Mawile, deciding that he finally needs to have an answer for this Mega Mawile. Deals some really good damage there, but maybe a little bit too late. Iron Head on that Staraptor doesn't deal that much damage, only about 50%, but the Thunderbolt from Wash Rotom is going to be able to pick up that KO. A critical hit, that's just gravy on top.
Yeah, a decisive win for Nikolai in this game, it looks like. He's got that 4-1 lead now. Aegislash might be able to stall it out for a little bit, but against 4 Pokemon, there's just not much it can do. We see Trick Room finally expiring here, but the damage has definitely been done. Mark has a faster team here. He's got that Staraptor, which, like most Staraptor, is a Choice Scarf set. He's got the option of either using Brave Bird or Final Gambit. So, he wants that speed. Garchomp very fast. Kangaskhan quick. Having Trick Room switching the speeds like that just really tough for him to deal with.
Yeah, and now he's faced with only his Aegislash out on the field, the slowest Pokemon on his team. Still going to play defensive, just try to stall this one out as much as possible. King Shield coming out to prevent any damage from Nikolai's side this turn. Of course, with that Substitute and the ability to stance using that King Shield alongside the Substitute, relatively safe. Leftovers will keep him full health, but against four Pokemon, like you mentioned, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, just the combination of Earthquake and Thunderbolt, or even a Will-O-Wisp here, which after knocking out that Substitute would really reduce the or any value of trying to stall off the leftovers, will end the game here, and we do see the forfeit.
Yeah,
really impressive Game 1 victory there by Nikolai.
Yep, Mark definitely identifying he did not have a win condition there, and Nikolai Zielinski from the United States takes the first win. Real tough match there for Mark. But of course, all of this came down to that Trick Room on Gengar. That's a huge reveal to your opponent that you have Trick Room on a fast Pokemon like Gengar.
Yeah, I mean, Trick Room is crazy enough to put on Gengar, but it's hard to imagine he didn't have an idea that that was going to be on his team. Rumors about something like that really tend to spread quickly, so I'm a little concerned about maybe his ability to deal with that based on the team that he has, but I think he's probably going to want to adjust his strategy a little bit in this next game. He tried to use Kangaskhan in its non-Mega form to counter it there, which didn't seem to be too effective. I understand now why he didn't Mega Evolve that Kangaskhan, because he absolutely had to get as much damage as he could on that Gengar, knowing that if Trick Room did go up, he wasn't going to be able to get much out of it. But because he had to switch on that first turn with his partner Pokemon when he used that Fake Out, he lost a lot of potential pressure there. He only got to attack it once before the Trick Room went up with that return from Kangaskhan, which wasn't nearly powerful enough to stop that Trick Room. So I think he's going to have to be a little bit more careful about how he stops that Trick Room this time. He needs to at least punish the setup harder if he wants to win this game. Unless he thinks he can play inside the Trick Room. Maybe bring different Pokemon next time, play a little slower lineup if he wants to do that. He had all 3 of his fastest Pokemon there, and it didn't work out too well. So maybe we will see that Lapras or that Rotom to try to stall out the game a little bit more with some of his slower Pokemon. Or he's going to have to try to start with a different lead to interrupt things a little bit, because if he lets the game play out the way it did the first time, Nikolai is definitely going to take this series. He's just not going to be able to play inside of Trick Room with such fast and frail Pokemon.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that that Trick Room is always powerful. It turns out that it's basically a rogue threat at these tournaments. We don't see too many Trick Room teams, but whenever one does show up and it's well constructed like Nikolai's is, it does work.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, too. In past years, Trick Room was a much more popular strategy, especially through Cresselia, which isn't allowed this year because it's only the Kalos Dex Pokemon. Because of that, we've seen a lot less Trick Room. It's much more difficult to get it up with Pokemon who can take advantage of it quickly enough for the 5 turns that it lasts to be effective. We've seen like Rhianoclys, Chandelure, Audino as Trick Room users, which definitely aren't the same class as something like Cresselia. And because of that, we haven't seen much of it. Using Gengar as a Trick Room Pokemon is definitely something that most players wouldn't expect, but it seems to be working very well for him here. And I think players are probably a lot less prepared for that Trick Room because it's been so much less popular here, which is kind of evidence in Mark's team, which is much faster and trying to play well against different threats than what he's against here.
Right, and we do see some different threats on the field this time. We see Mawile and Hydreigon leading for Nikolai up against Aegislash and Staraptor for Mark. So Mark still thinks that he wants to have that Staraptor putting that early pressure on, make that 1-1 trade as soon as possible. But but opting to lead with the Aegislash instead of the Kangaskhan. A better counter if that Gengar had made another appearance.
Yeah, in this case, too, it's actually a much better lead, I think. Staraptor has some interesting options here. I'm sure it would love to final gambit both of these Pokemon. It's going to have to watch out for walking into a Sucker Punch if it tries, which would vastly reduce the damage of that final gambit, but Maul protecting here, not wanting to risk getting hit by a big damage attack and falling too early.
Yeah, Mawile's not going to worry about that, but final gambit is coming in from Staraptor onto the Hydreigon. Clean trade, 1-for-1. Knocks both Pokemon out, and now we have just a huge offensive threat off of the field for Nikolai. You'll trade your Staraptor for a Hydreigon anytime, and Aegislash also getting to set up his substitute for free.
Yeah, that's a big play by Mark there. I'm a little surprised that Nikolai allowed that to happen. With Hydreigon on the field like that, it's very... the main reason why you use Hydreigon, I guess, at this point in the metagame instead of something like Salamence is because Aegislash is just so popular. You've got that counter to Aegislash out. His opponent was going to realize that, right? So how do you get rid of Hydreigon? Well, you just use that final gambit. It's an easy trade, and he lets it happen here. Still, both sides trading a non-mega Pokemon, so it's not like it's a huge swing, but I think I definitely prefer to be on Mark's side of it, so he's definitely getting a better start in this game. And with Rotom out here, Maul's really going to have a hard time getting anything done. Yeah,
with Heat Rotom on the field against that Mawile, it's definitely, you want to Mega Evolve that Mawile and get some offensive pressure on the board. Garchomp, not a terrible choice here, but the Levitate from Heat Rotom is going to make its most powerful attack useless against it, and Aegislash does not mind getting Rock Slid throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing here with Garchomp. It's actually pretty good against both of the opposing Pokemon, so he's got one Pokemon that's bad against both and one Pokemon that's good against both. However, Rock Slide's good against one Pokemon and Earthquake's good against the other, so Garchomp can't really deal with both of them at the same time. So since Maul's already used that Protect there, Rotom and Aegislash are going to have a chance to make some plays here.
And it looks like Nikolai wants to make some plays too. Going to go ahead and Mega Evolve his Mawile. So Mega Mawile back on the field. Mark still playing slow, going to continue to protect that Aegislash, hoping that Nikolai is going all out to get that threat off the field. Sucker Punch does fail as it tries to Sucker Punch the Aegislash, but Garchomp going to put up a substitute, and Mawile avoids the Will-O-Wisp from Heat Rotom. What a huge play there.
Yeah, well, a nice job there. Aegislash avoids that Sucker Punch, but too bad to see that Will-O-Wisp missing. Great job by Rotom. In theory, I guess strategically a great plan. He gets that Will-O-Wisp and Maul off for free, but it misses, so he doesn't get that burn, and that's definitely going to make this position a lot worse than it could be. We also see a substitute from Garchomp, which is a big deal for two different reasons here. First of all, with that substitute up, it's going to be a lot more difficult to deal with. It doesn't have to worry about that Will-O-Wisp anymore. But also, because it is substitute, it's likely missing another move. Typically, substitute Garchomp runs substitute and protect like most Pokemon in VGC do. So because of that, you're missing one of Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and Rock Slide. Usually it's that Dragon Claw you drop, so Aegislash or Rotom, one of the two, are not going to have to worry about a super effective move here.
Yeah, and as you predicted, that Garchomp is using the Protect, going to stay healthy behind the sub. So is the Heat Rotom. Everyone's protecting. No one wants to make the first move here, except Mega Mawile is going to be able to get that Sucker Punch off onto Aegislash. Is it going to be able to break the sub? Yes. Still in that shield form, but does deal enough damage to break the substitute. Aegislash is going to stance into that blade form in the Flash Cannon, into the Garchomp Protect. So free removal of the substitute for Mawile there.
Yeah, nice job on Nikolai's end there. He started off this game a little bit slow, but a nice job there. He was able to prevent taking any damage that turn. He removes that substitute for free, and that's a big advantage for him. Even though, in theory, it doesn't look like that big a deal just to have the substitute off the field, Aegislash has to be a lot more careful now. It's much less likely to try to attack a second turn in a row now because a Sucker Punch would knock it out. So its options a little bit more limited. It's much more likely to use substitute again or to King Shield, which opens up the options on the other side here. Especially if Maul wants to switch here, but looks like Rotom's going out instead.
Yep, Heat Rotom doesn't want to stick around in favor of Lapras. So Lapras making it on the field this time, going to immediately threaten that Garchomp. But Aegislash is going to go ahead and stance back to shield form. Make sure that it uses King Shield to protect any incoming damage, and hopefully get that Lapras in for free. Sucker Punch, of course, not going to be able to connect to anyone, but Dragon Claw coming out from Garchomp onto Lapras, going to deal some good damage, just under 50% there. Well, it takes a little bit back from its Life Orb.
So that's an awful lot of damage in Lapras there, but we see why with the Life Orb activating. Definitely looks like Mark was expecting Trick Room again. He chose to bring all of his slower Pokemon. I mentioned in the preview that was one of his options here. So no Trick Room this time, but he is in a better position. Garchomp doesn't like facing down that Lapras, but it's actually still a tough spot for Lapras here. A double target from Mawile and Garchomp would knock it out pretty easily here, so it can't just attack freely. So now at this point, Mark has to try to make a decision here. What does he think his opponent's going to do and try to get a free move with one of his 2 Pokemon here?
Yeah, it always comes down to these mind games. Mawile protect to prevent itself from taking any damage from its partner's Earthquake, but the Earthquake is going to connect to both Lapras and Aegislash, and that's Life Orb dealing a ton of damage. Gets Lapras down to red and the Aegislash into the yellow. The Hydro Pump into the Mawile protect though, and Aegislash is going to go on the offensive here, going back into its blade form using Shadow Ball. Also onto the Mawile, the double target into the protect, and Nikolai takes control of this match.
Yeah, that's a huge play there. Tons of damage from that Garchomp Earthquake, knocking both of these Pokemon into range where a second Earthquake would be able to knock them out. Mawile absorbing both attacks for free, and that's just a trade that Mark could not afford to make at this point. He's really in a desperate situation now. It's not impossible to come back, but he's really, really going to have to reach for something now. It's a really, really dominating lead by Nikolai here.
And Nikolai in the control is going to be able to switch out, play a little bit more conservatively, switch out the Mawile for Gengar, whose Levitate will prevent that Earthquake from hurting it. And here comes the Earthquake onto the Aegislash and the Lapras. Is it going to be a 2-hit KO? Gets a double KO onto the Lapras and the Aegislash. 2 KOs, 1 attack. Garchomp's got to be pleased, and so does Nikolai.
Yeah, his Garchomp's really doing a fantastic job this game. It's completely taken over the second game. You know, the first game we saw that Trick Room from Gengar really turning the game around, and this time it's an unconventional Garchomp set. You don't quite think of it the same way as being as crazy as Trick Room on such a fast Pokemon, but the combination of Life Orb and Substitute is something that's almost never seen in Garchomp, but really seeing how effective it is here.
Yeah, and we do see another Dragon Claw coming out from that Garchomp, dealing so much damage. More than 50% against that Heat Rotom down to the yellow. Going to be able to heal up a little bit with that Citrus Berry. But of course, Gengar is on the field too. Going to be able to, well, Will-O-Wisp coming out, going to be able to be tanked by that Gengar. Not too worried about that in general. Shadow Ball comes out from Gengar onto the Heat Rotom. Will it be enough to get the KO? Not quite. Does get the special defense drop though. And it's just Heat Rotom. Lowered special defense, not many options. And it looks like we're going to have a champion from the United States here.
Looks like it. Not much he can do here for Mark. He's played an admirable series here, but Nikolai's tricks just seemed like a little bit too much here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do see a Protect coming out from Heat Rotom, trying to get as much chip damage as possible. Choosing to break the Substitute there. A little cheeky. But we will have one more turn left over.
Yeah, perhaps calling the Protect there. Getting a little cheeky here, but I guess when you're winning a match of the World Championship Finals, it's easy to get a little sassy there.
There it is. Garchomp's Dragon Claw is going to be the coup de grace. Heat Rotom goes down. Nikolai Zielinski is your seniors world champion for the Pokemon Video Game Championships. This crowd is going crazy.
Yeah, really impressive victory there. He absolutely dominated that final series. Definitely can't feel too bad if you're Mark there. I'm sure that finals didn't go quite how he was hoping it would there, but getting to the finals is still a huge deal. A really impressive run, and an excellent job by Nikolai there. It's one of the most dominating World Finals matches I've ever seen in any age division. He really did a great job in that series, dominating both games, with 2 different kind of trick sets. You don't see that Trick Room very often on Gengar, but did a fantastic job there. And then that Life Orb Substitute Garchomp. Definitely not something I was expecting to see in these World Championships in either case, but really, really impressive showing by both of them, and they both kind of single-handedly took over a game there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most impressive things about this victory for Nikolai. He played 2 very distinct, very different strategies, and it looked like Mark just did not have an answer for either of them. Of course, you can't take away, Mark did make it to the finals of the World Championships. That's a huge accomplishment as well.
That's right. I mean, I think a big part of that, too, is that with Nikolai's victory there, it's tough to get through this many rounds of Swiss, this many rounds of the top cut bracket without having a variety of strategies available there. If you only have one trick, your opponents are going to figure it out very quickly. They're going to have a game plan for it, and you're going to get shut down. But he has a variety of options there, enough that by virtue of having that second option, it was difficult to lead into his team. It looked like in both of those games there, Mark led something that maybe wasn't quite appropriate for what Nikolai had brought, because he wasn't quite sure what he was going to get. And that Gengar was there in that second game. It seemed like Mark had adjusted his team quite a bit more to try to deal with that Gengar's threat, but by bringing in a different point in the battle there, he still could have gotten Trick Room up at the end if the margin hadn't been so big, and probably did some very serious damage, which is sort of a mark of a good Trick Room player too, is knowing when to bring that Trick Room setter in and when to leave it out a little bit longer on the sidelines and bring it in once your opponent's plan for dealing with it isn't out in the field any longer. Played that really masterfully there, and you can see why he's the world champion. A fantastic job by him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We are going to go ahead and throw to another break, and we'll be right back with an interview with Nikolai, who is now your new senior world champion. Let's hear it one more time for Nikolai, everyone here in the stadium. And we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
I'm from Lake and Hills, Illinois.
I am from France.
Monument, Colorado.
I'm from Japan.
I am from Chesapeake, Virginia.
I am from Great Britain. It took 8 hours on the plane from London to Washington, D.C.
I'm coming from California.
I'm from the Netherlands.
I'm coming from Victoria, right beside Vancouver, actually.
We're from the DMV here. This is home to us.
I'm from Rosario, Argentina. To came to Washington, I travel like 14 hours.
I'm from Canada. I'm from Ontario in Ottawa. I'm so excited to be here in Washington, D.C.